everyone, it's Kate, the owner of The Confident Stitch, and today I'm going to show you how to make this quilt out of our Eclectic Tangermarine Quilt Kit. The fabrics in the quilt are from our Spring 2022 We Quilt the City swatch set. I also made a video showing how to make this zingy zipper pouch out of the swatch set, and I'll include a link to that video right here. If you're a subscriber, you will receive the written instructions for this quilt. And if you are a subscriber or you aren't a subscriber, you'll want to consider buying the kit for the quilt. It includes 9 green fat quarters and 9 orange fat quarters, which is enough to make this 52 by 58 inch quilt, and it only costs $63. We adapted this pattern from a free pattern on the Freespirit website called Eclectic Red, and I will include a link to that pattern in the description below. So today I'm going to give you 4 bonus tips and tricks that will help you be successful in making this quilt. So let's get started. Okay, to make the quilt, you're going to make 72 of these units, which are 7-inch square with a green rectangle in the middle and 2 orange triangles on either side. And the first step is going to be cutting out your fat quarters. Out of each green fat quarter, you're going to want to cut 8 3.5 by 10-inch rectangles, and this is the 22-inch side of the fat quarter. Fat quarters are 22 inches by 18 inches, and if you cut your 3.5 inch strips parallel to the 22-inch side, you'll easily be able to get 2 rectangles out of each cut. The orange fat quarters bring me to tip number 1, which is to cut them into 8 5.5 inch squares instead of 5.25 inch squares, which is what the Freespirit instructions say. The 5.5 inch squares just give you a little more leeway for trimming down your units to exactly 7 inches. And after you cut 72 5.5 inch squares out of the different orange fabrics, you're going to cut them one more time into triangles. So you will end up with 144 orange triangles. So tip number 2 is how I marked the units. For the rectangles, I marked the crosswise halfway point by folding it wrong sides together and pressing it. And I marked the lengthwise halfway point by drawing a line with my air erasing sew line pen. The air erasing pen is great if you're gonna finish your project the day or a couple days later, but you can also use the water erasing sew line pen if it's going to take you more than a couple days. Don't use a friction pen for this step because you will iron the unit before you actually use the line, so you don't want the line to disappear. And for the triangles, I folded them right sides together and pressed a crease into the center mark. These markings are really helpful when it's time to line up the 2 units, and then when it's time to trim to exactly 7 inches, this line really helps with accuracy. Okay, let me show you how the way I marked them makes it easy to put the 2 pieces together. So you're going to position the triangle right sides together with the rectangle, and you want to match up the centers exactly, and the 2 creases I ironed in make it pretty darn easy to get the center matched up exactly. And I suggest sewing all the right-hand triangles at one time so that you can press them out of the way before you sew the left-hand triangles. And I'm going to show you how I recommend pressing in the next tip. So tip number 3 is to press your seam allowances open. It's really hard to nest the seams on this project, so I found it best to press them open. And as you're pressing them open, you want to make sure to try to avoid the crease on the other side of the rectangle so that you still have your mark when you put the triangle on the other side. But press all your seams open, and then I'm going to show you how to trim and how to connect all your units. Okay, here's a finished unit. It's ready to trim, and this is when I'm going to be glad I have my line in the center of the green strip. I'm going to take my ruler. I have an 8.5 inch ruler, square ruler, but if you have a 7.5 inch square one, that's even better. But this ruler has a 45-degree line, and I'm lining it up with the line that I drew, and I'm going to make sure that the 7-inch mark is on the fabric on these two sides. Hold down my ruler and trim the first two sides. Having the center mark on your green strip really takes the guesswork out of it, and I think will make it so your units line up a lot better. So after the first two sides, I'm going to rotate 180 degrees. Once again, line up my ruler, and this time make sure that the two 7-inch marks are right on this edge and that edge. Hold down the ruler. Oops. And accidentally move the ruler on camera. Let's trim the second two sides. And you have a perfect 7-inch unit with the center of the green strip going into the corners. And my final tip will show you how to connect all of your units. Okay, now it's time to sew your units into 9 rows of 8 units, and you're going to orient them like this. I would use a design wall. You can do it exactly like we did, and here is a picture of our finished quilt. Or you can use your own creative juices. But the most important thing, and tip number 4, is that you want these diagonals to line up at the 1/4 inch mark. And so this is how I do that. I will flip the units and then mark on one of them where the 1/4 inch is, and then put a pin through this junction, the 1/4 inch junction, and make sure that it comes out at the junction on the other side. And hopefully you can see that the pin is coming out right there. So if I pin it in place, I just pin it that one spot, and then I know when I sew the seam that these two will match, and you're ready to go. Okay, so my 4 tips are: first, cut your starting squares of orange fabric 5.5 inches instead of 5 1/4. Mark the crosswise and lengthwise centers of your green rectangles. Press the seams open, and then carefully match your diagonals at the 1/4 inch mark. If you make this quilt, I would love to see it. You can post it in the Confident Stitch Facebook community. That's where I hang out. And thanks for watching, everyone. Bye for now.